nature, things of that 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 nature.
Good morning, Razorback fans. Welcome to the Pot of That Nature pregame show. I'm Curtis Wilkerson. He's Andrew Ellis. We're with Inside Arkansas, and we're here to talk to you today about the big game, Arkansas versus UAB on Saturday, the home opener in Fayetteville, so that's cool. Other than that, I don't know how intriguing this game is. UAB is not very good, folks. We know that you do not care about the X's and O's of the Blazers. I think we probably know about as much about their personnel as Andrew Armstrong and Jaquindon Jackson did Tuesday night. But that's okay because Arkansas should win this game handily. If they don't, boy, we're going to have some other problems that we're going to be talking about in the aftermath. But I think, Andrew, and tell me if you're on the same page here, this one is much more about the Razorbacks.
For sure. And I mean, look, Curtis, that's what the folks want to hear. You guys listening do not care what UAB's O-line, D-line looks like. Who's the guy that if Arkansas is going to have trouble? I don't care about that, and we don't care about that. And Jaquindon Jackson and Andrew Armstrong don't care about that. I think this is a nice opportunity for Arkansas to get back on track. And honestly, it kind of lines up perfectly where Arkansas gets to, they have a tough loss week 2. Now it's time to refresh and, we're flushing it. We're moving forward. Now you get an obvious, clear win to kind of be like, you know what? See, we're fine. We're fine. It kind of gives you a little bit of time to reset, get your footing, get your bearings about you before you hit the road for some real football games. And so I think it kind of works out perfectly for Arkansas. And guys, you get to watch Arkansas beat a team at home. And that's not a guarantee a lot of times, but you get to watch that happen. And so everyone should pull up. Weather should be pretty nice. And hopefully it's a good time. The last time UAB was in town, Sebastian Schertola threw a touchdown pass. So
that's right.
I'm wondering if we can top that somehow.
Yeah. I guess that was 10 years ago now? Was that 2014 when that went down?
It was 2014. It was the day I took the ACT for the first time.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's a good way to unbend the mind after one of those deals. So, this Arkansas needs to handle their business here. The one thing that we've said, like even as frustrating as the game was on Saturday, this is a fun team to watch. Like I really enjoy watching them. Taylor Green is he's dynamic. You don't see too many dudes like him. There's some mistakes mixed in or whatever, but he's exciting. This offense under Petrino is exciting. Jaquindon Jackson, the way he runs, those are the things you love to see. So whereas last year, when this offense was stuck in the mud and they were all over the place, they couldn't block a lick. It just wasn't an aesthetically pleasing product to watch. It'll put you to sleep, man. This team does not do that. So throughout the ups and downs this season, I think that they're going to be a blast to watch, and it's cool that they're going to be in front of the home crowd. 3:15, and that's going to be on SEC Network for those who aren't going to be there. But here's the deal. We do these pregame shows a little bit different. It's not the cookie cutter, like we said, the personnel reports for the opposing team. Here are the formations they're going to be running. No, we don't do that because you guys don't care about that. A lot of times we'll do like the must-win position battles. Like here are the position battles that we think Arkansas's got to win, keys to the game type of deal. Quite frankly, they should win every single one of them this week. So we're not going to do that. Like we said, this one is about the Razorbacks. So what I want to start with, Andrew, is just the non-negotiables. Like what are the things that we must see from Arkansas in this game to maybe feel good moving forward going into SEC play? And look, Arkansas ain't overlooking UAB. They're not. We might be, but we do have our eyes on what they need to improve on, what they need to sharpen up going into way tougher competition. I'm going to steal the low-hanging fruit right off the top here, and I think that they've got to clean it up, man. I mean, that's just where it starts for me. Arkansas must clean it up. Chill out on the turnovers. Stop putting it on the turf. Don't suplex ball carriers. Don't muff a punt or run into the guy who's trying to catch it. Clean up the snaps. Like all the little things that added up to you losing a game that you statistically dominated in Stillwater. Show that you've emphasized it in practice, which I'm sure they have, and show that you can eliminate most of those against inferior competition. I think it's the first thing everybody's looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just a clean game. And, Curtis, you mentioned how you want this to be a nice little like you don't want there to be any weirdness going on. You don't want this to be a game where Arkansas has a little bit of a letdown, and that would make sense coming off of an emotional game on the road. It would make sense to kind of let your guard down a little bit, but you just can't have that, especially after what you did last week. You can't have the turnovers. It would be harder to overlook that as, well, it's just UAB, whatever the case may be. I think Arkansas should be taking some pride in the fact that, you don't get to play at home that much, especially at the University of Arkansas. They really hate playing on campus. And so I think you got to take that pride a little bit. This might be the only time a lot of fans get to see Arkansas play. And so, show up and actually be present in this game. But Curtis, I'm looking at the defensive line. And again, it's not about the battle of, UAB's got experience, tackle, anything about that. It's about the fact that this defensive line, which we've had questions about all offseason, seems to be a pretty short group. And I feel like you just have to get pressure on the quarterback. You have to dominate this matchup. You have to show that you can wreak havoc up front, because if you're not able to get pressure in this game, and if we are talking about the matchup, UAB did get beat up a little bit on the offensive line. ULM was able to pressure their quarterback relentlessly and really throw everything they did offensively for a loop. There's no reason at all why Arkansas shouldn't be able to get pressure on the UAB quarterback and kind of stuff things up front and make us feel a little bit better about this defensive line. And frankly, maybe play a few more guys. We don't need to see a 5-man rotation of guys playing 65, 75 snaps on the line. Mix it up a little bit. Show us that you've got some spark there. Show us that you've got some depth on the D-line. I think Razorback fans would feel a little bit better about their to go out there and get 3-4 sacks against UAB.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%, and I'm glad you brought up playing a few more guys, because the next thing that I had was I just think Arkansas's they've got to trust their depth a little bit. We heard about it, and this is it's very much camp talk. You hear it every year about, this group it's deeper than it's ever been. We're so deep here. We love our depth. Well, we heard it over and over and over, and then the first time you're challenged, UAPB ain't that. So you played 82 guys or whatever it was. Okay. Oklahoma State, you could tell right away that they don't trust as many guys, or they're not quite as deep as they alleged themselves to be. But I do think that's got to change to a degree. And it's the same situation. If you can't get pressure on the quarterback against UAB, how are you going to do it against the SEC? If you can't trust a deeper rotation of guys in and out against UAB, how are you really going to do that in SEC play? So I think about it across the board, really, but a few different positions. You mentioned the defensive line. Yeah, I think that's really important. Really, it's Junkaj and Kiwi Rose are the only guys that are like legitimately rotating in. Now, I know Quincy Rhodes gets a few snaps here and there, but I don't even know if I count that as a guy in the rotation right now. Where's Ian Trafford at? Is he really going to be a contributor here? Is Danny Saili going to figure it out? Those are two mountains of men in the middle, but we got to see them, man. And so that is something that's going to be on my mind. I think on the other side of the ball too, I get it. You don't rotate offensive linemen in and out too much, but I do think that you've got some question marks there. And I know Patrick Kudus is gone, but hey, Eric Mateo, Sam Pittman, don't sit there and tell us that you got 8 or 9 offensive linemen when you refuse to use more than 5 of them. And in a game like this, you're going to need that, because goodness knows if somebody goes down, rolls an ankle, knock on wood, whatever, it could get weird pretty quick. So I think both sides on the trenches, use your running backs. If Rashad Dominion's hurt, okay, fine. If he's not healthy, but hello, Braylon Russell, hello, Tyrell Reed. Like if they were really 5 deep in that running back room, we'd start seeing more of those guys. Jaquinton Jackson, maybe he avoids the full body cramps if he's not getting 30 touches in a game. So yeah, I mean, how deep are you really? And then in the secondary, I think it's going to be tested by necessity. And I think we'll talk about those guys a little bit more specifically later. But that depth is going to be tested because they might be down a couple bodies. But all these dudes that we've heard about, man, whether it's the young guys or, the transfers of the world or whatever, you got to play more than 17 dudes on defense, especially, again, like I get it, it's UAB, but especially once you get into SEC play, because you were out against Oklahoma State. These dudes are going to be bigger, faster, stronger, more physical, and deeper. So you got to be ready for that. I hope we see some of it and they get a little bit of trust that can kind of carry over with some momentum moving forward.
Well, Sam Pittman said Monday that he wished Arkansas had played another game before the Oklahoma State game, frankly, which, easy to say after a loss. I thought it was actually kind of funny that he said it. But I think that what you're touching on is a big reason why, where if you had this UAB game in week 2, maybe you play Quincy Rhodes a little bit more and you feel a little bit better about playing him in Oklahoma State. Maybe you play Braylon Russell a little bit more and you feel better about playing him in Oklahoma State, which, again, they just didn't feel like they were in a position to do. Who knows? They always have their meeting on Friday where they determine how they're going to play the players. I don't know if that's what they plan to do, was to play their defensive linemen 75 snaps each. I feel like it was one of those things where you just get into the heated battle and it's like, we don't feel comfortable rotating here. But again, that's why this game is going to be interesting, because to your point, if you don't rotate now, you're not going to rotate at Auburn. You're not going to rotate against A&M. You're not just going to magically start. It's going to be harder to work those guys into action. And so, for all those guys who were on the depth chart, and by the way, we post the depth chart every week on InsideArkansas.com. For some of those guys on the depth chart who were in kind of that fringe group of maybe in the 2s, 3s, trying to work their way up, this game is a really big, moment for them, because it's kind of their last stand to make sure they get in. You're on the good side of that rotation, because they're going to cap it, whether it's receiver, running back, D-line, linebacker, secondary, whatever. They're going to kind of cap it at somewhere where, hey, we're only going to play X amount of guys. And this is a big game, the UAB game, for some of those guys in that mix, to make sure you're on the right side of that. Make sure you're one of those guys that are rotating in. And so, it's going to be very interesting to see some of the young guys that will likely get a chance to play in this game and see what they're able to do with their action. But, I think you said trust the depth, and I think that's perfect, because I think in this type of game, especially because think about it, say that Arkansas does just play Jaquin and Jackson 30, rush attempts or whatever. It's like, why would you even want to do that? Like, you would probably work out. You'd beat UAB, but it's like, yes, that shouldn't be what you want to do. And so I definitely want to see a little bit more rotation, see what some of these second, third unit guys can do. But the running back position is one that I've got my eye on, and we will get to that in a second when we get to our challenges. But running back, I definitely want to see a little bit of a rotation.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And maybe the other one that I wanted to touch on, if we're talking about things you just really want to see in this game, and you touched on it just a little bit, it does kind of feel like Arkansas needs to put on a show here, because this is it is a pretty easy letdown spot, even despite the loss. It kind of is, but just for perception's sake, like, you haven't played in front of your home crowd yet. This is a fan base that is easily triggered from this. It's like PTSD, and whether that's fair to this particular team or not, like, they're haunted by the things that happened last year and all those 1-score games. Obviously, it's almost like the presidential race. Like, it doesn't really matter what happens in the debate. Like, people on either side are kind of entrenched. Like, they get their feet dug in one way or the other. And that's in a lot of cases, that's the way it is here with, like, oh yeah, Sam Pittman's going to make it or he's not, or this program, like, this is the year or it's not. So there's not a whole lot of gray area there, but for those that there is, you really want to have a good showing to kind of change that perception. Like, they come out there flat. We mentioned how, you could see it being a game where, like Kent State last year, where you wind up winning by 4 scores or whatever, but it's just, a little bit off. They need to come out there and chuck it all over the field, run up the score. I don't care. But there needs to be some fireworks. They need to give something for this fan base to cheer about and renew that optimism. We need it. All right. Inside Arkansas needs it as a company, man. When people are excited about this football program, it's a lot easier for us to do our jobs, and it's a lot more fun to interact with all you yahoos out there. So I'm all for an emphatic performance at home, just to kind of just get that nasty taste out of your mouth from Stillwater. And kind of restore the vibes, get back to where you can spin that narrative. Hey, you know what? It's early in the season. We had a little setback, but we're trending in the right direction going into SEC play. That is what you want.
You got to be 1-0 this week.
That's right.
And I think a big part of going 1-0, Curtis, my last non-negotiable, I guess, is the offensive line for Arkansas. One, Arkansas gave up some pressure. I'd say, what was it? 16, 17 dropbacks Taylor Green was pressured on, and some of which you could argue were on him. But you don't want to see stuff like that. I think this Arkansas offensive line, even being down Kudus, needs to absolutely impose their will in this matchup. UAB gave up over 200 yards on the ground last week against ULM. This is a very good chance for Arkansas to really lean on someone. And you're not going to have that many opportunities left to really just impose your will and dominate someone. Not saying Arkansas can't do that against SEC competition. They imposed their will pretty well against Oklahoma State at times. But I think this would be that would be a big part of this matchup is like, don't let there be any confusion. Don't give that defense any reason to believe they can compete with you. I think Arkansas, this might be a game where Arkansas gets over 300 yards rushing.
I like that. I like it a lot. And just for the record, before we move on here, this is not a deal where we sit up here and talk about this in the pregame and then it just gets buried or whatever. We hold ourselves accountable. So that's a good segue into what we're about to do, which we're gonna kind of issue some challenges to some guys we think are key to this game or who maybe need to step up or whatever. We've got our bold predictions, but when it's over, we host an accountability session where we run it back. So if we said something stupid in the pregame, we're going to say, hey, you know what? That didn't work out. Oops, we were wrong. If we nail it, then yeah, we're going to pat ourselves on the back because why wouldn't we? But so stay tuned for that. And I think when people maybe got a little bit confused last week when we did it and they're like, well, where the heck is John? Well, John's with us on Inside Arkansas Live and he's with us on the post games. And we do things like this. It's usually just us. And we hold ourselves accountable for what we say. Just like the players, which I appreciated, kind of held themselves accountable after that Oklahoma State game, saying, hey, a lot of people put this on the coaches. We got to make the plays. We got to be in position too. So when we're issuing these challenges there, keep that in mind because they get it. They know they got to step up. Let's let you start with this, Andrew. Your first challenge issued for this game. And again, it's a unique one because of the competition here, but I'm curious where you're at.
Well, we've got to get our first repeat challenge of the year. I actually think there's a chance we might have 2 repeat challenges that we issued last week. But Landon Jackson, we're looking right back at you, buddy. Hasn't really joined us yet in the 2024 season. We're still kind of waiting on that first Landon Jackson moment. And it's only 2 weeks. No, we're not trying to overreact too much. We're not like concerned about Landon Jackson and his future. But, he's a star. He's a star for Arkansas football. He's one of the highly respected guys in the country. A guy that's probably going to play in the pros. This is the type of, you expect guys like that to make plays. And he just simply hasn't made plays yet. And it's, again, we're not trying to panic. We're not overreacting, but I'm challenging Landon Jackson. You got to get out there and make your presence known. Even if it's just 1 sack, kind of get on the board, get that monkey off your back, and let's go play football. And I feel like there's a lot of guys. I mean, how many times have we seen it in our comments? Where's Landon Jackson? What's going on here? Landon Jackson, disappearing act or whatever. And look, I think it's a little bit tough because he's being asked to play 75, 80 snaps. So I can see why he wore down there in that Oklahoma State game. But I think a lot of fans, it would be nice to just see your guy, see your star go out there and make a play, get this home crowd going a little bit. I think it'd be nice to see your leader on defense step up and be a leader.
Yeah, and for the number, I'm with you, by the way, and for the number of snaps that he's taken, to only have 3 tackles, 1 TFL, 0 sacks, and only 2 QB hurries, he's much, much better than that. And it's an adjustment for him. I mean, he's got a lot more attention on him too, but that's part of the deal. And like Sam Pittman said, they've got to get a little bit more creative in ways to free him up and get him to the quarterback. So that's on them, and then obviously it's on him to make the plays there. For me, I'm guessing this is what your other repeat was going to be, although I'm kind of issuing as an open-ended challenge here, just a cornerback not named Jalen Braxton. And we don't know if Jalen Braxton's going to play or not, which is an interesting deal there because we heard he had some tendonitis going on, and then we heard it's a bone bruise and didn't sound like he'd been practicing a ton, and they're going to kind of reevaluate things. I don't know if he's going to play, and if he does, I don't know how much we're going to see him. Well, Arkansas was down a corner last week, and that meant a lot more Jaheim Singletary and Keon Stewart. That didn't work out particularly well. So whether it's one of those guys, but I think we're on the same page here that it needs to be Marquise Cuddy Robinson, who hopefully is fully recovered and back in action from that stinger that he got in pregame that kept him out of the Oklahoma State game, which was obviously a big one for him. That's a tough blow there on the personal front for him, man. He's been getting it from the Oklahoma State fans on social media, whatever. But the more and more we get into this, and the more and more Singletary and Keon Stewart I saw, no disrespect, I'm with you, Andrew, where I think it needs to be Cuddy. I think he needs to be the guy who steps up and just takes over and locks down this other side of the field. He doesn't have to be a star. He just has to be solid and reliable opposite Braxton. And in this particular game, he might need to be the dude. And then you're going to need, and like the trickle down, the domino effect there. If Braxton's not able to go, then you would obviously need somebody else to step up there. I don't care. Listen, Singletary, Keon Stewart, those guys have their moments. They have times where they get picked on. They really struggle. Selman Bridges, I don't care who it is, but you got to have some guys step up there because that's a concern. It's almost like quarterbacks. Like if you have two, you don't have one. That's kind of how I feel about this opposite corner position. If you have four, do you really have one? So somebody please take hold of that position.
I like that. I'm glad you mentioned Selman Bridges. For my next challenge, Curtis, I've got to go back to the offense just a little bit. Braylon Russell. And I'm not challenging Braylon Russell in a way of like, hey, he needs to be better or anything like that. Right. Braylon Russell probably would have liked to get in that game last weekend. I'm sure he was disappointed. I know a lot of fans were disappointed. He's kind of becoming a little bit of like the TJ Hammonds, Isaiah Satania form where you're like, why is this guy not playing? Why are we not featuring this guy a little bit? That's kind of the guy everyone is starting to gravitate to. And frankly, I don't think they're wrong for that. And so Braylon Russell, I would imagine, is going to get a few more chances this week, particularly with Jaquin Jackson carrying the ball 25 times last week and kind of dealing with some cramps. So I'd imagine they're going to try and have more of a rotation. So Braylon Russell, it's up to you to show these coaches that they made the mistake last week of not trusting you. That let them know that they can trust you moving forward in SEC play. Because if you can't get it done in this matchup, it's going to be really tough for them to hand you the ball at Auburn or hand you the ball at A&M or LSU, Tennessee, whatever the case may be. And so, Braylon Russell, you're going to get a chance this weekend. Make the most of it. Show Razorback Nation that they're right for believing in you. Show us that we're right for hyping you up all summer and calling you a big load and all that and talking about how excited we are to see you hit guys. It would be really cool to see Braylon Russell go out there and ball out, and I think he's got a good chance to do it. I mean, I mentioned that UAB's run defense really struggled last week, and so I think this is a big week for Braylon Russell to kind of earn his way into that actual rotation for SEC play.
Yeah, agree with that, and I'm glad you almost provided some clarification there. When we issue these challenges, these guys every week, some people like it's just a thing that people get triggered by sometimes if they don't listen or if they don't understand the context. It's not in every case that's going, hey, this guy sucks, he's got to be better. No, not at all. It's people who are supposed to be key cogs or they're better in a particular area, and we know that. Or like you said, it's guys who might have an opportunity to step up and be a big factor, and you want them to be able to seize that. In a lot of ways, if you're getting a challenge from us, if you care what we have to say, it's almost like a compliment because we feel like you could really be a dude here. So don't get it misconstrued as like negative connotation or anything like that, because it's not. And I need to get that in there because I've got like 5 more of these that I want to throw out there. An easy one, some more low hanging fruit. How about I challenge Jaquin Jackson just to not put the ball on the turf. Just don't fumble in this game. That's all. Because you're awesome, man. The way he runs with his burst, his power, he's got some swag about him. He's so good. I really do believe that he's one of the best backs right now, if not the best back in the SEC. You just got to hold on to that thing. And I know it was something that plagued him a little bit when he was at Utah. And so, yeah, the no fumble alert. I know we talked on Inside Arkansas Live, like, hey, just avoid the cramps and avoid the fumbles. And the fumbles are something that he can control, I guess. Maybe he could, let's see, it's Thursday morning, so start hydrating now so you don't have to worry about the cramping situation. But that was one. I'm going to give one more, and then I'll flip it back to you. I'm going to go Brad Spence. And the reason I'm doing that is because a good handful of times over the last few days, you've talked about how impressed you've been, with the linebackers. It's a really good group. How you're buying into it, believing in it, and every time you said that, there's been a moment where I've just kind of been like, eh. And the reason why is because Sorey is a dude. I mean, everything that we hoped he would be so far, he has been. But then I think about the others, and I go, I don't really like. Have I heard this guy's name? Have I seen him? Like, do I recall anything there? And Brad Spence has been fine, but I think he's more than fine. And if you look at his stats right now. For the 2 games of the season, he has 7 total tackles. He's got a half tackle for loss. I just think he's more impactful there. And I know that Oklahoma State was throwing it a lot, out on the edges and everything. So like he might not get as many tackles in that situation, but I feel like Brad Spence is a dude who could really be a 1-2 punch with Sorey, and not Sorey's the man, and then you just got a handful of serviceable guys behind him. I was really impressed with him. I thought he popped as a true freshman with some of the plays he made, and struck me as a guy who could maybe be on that Pooh Paul arc in terms of going from exactly that, which is, oh yeah, this dude's got some potential, to really being a key factor on the defense. I'd like to see him have a big game. 8+ tackles, get yourself a sack or a big TFL, whatever. He is also a turnover machine. Get a pick, pop a ball loose, force a fumble, something. I'm looking for Brad Spence to make a big play.
I like that a lot. And honestly, it's similar to the cornerback position, where it's like, just somebody step up. There needs to be another guy there. Because I agree that when you think about the linebackers, almost every good play you can think of involves Xavier Sorey, and he was involved a lot. And I feel like he definitely changed that Oklahoma State game. So yeah, even if it's Steven Dix or whoever, but I think Brad Spence is the guy who's starting next to him. And I mean, he's the most likely candidate here. And to your point, when Pooh Paul was a true freshman, he played a little bit similar to Brad Spence last year, but by the end of his redshirt freshman year, we knew that Arkansas had a guy in Pooh Paul.
Yeah.
And now Ole Miss has a guy in Pooh Paul. And so, yeah, I think that it's tough to play linebacker as a young player in the SEC, but I think that, he's going to have to kind of grow up on the fly here. And so I really like that pick. And Curtis, speaking with our theme of guys who are likely going to get chances and need to make the most of their chances, you know where I'm going with this. Matthew Shipley.
Yeah, man.
You're the Hawaii transfer kicker. We thought he was the kicker all offseason. We thought that Arkansas brought him in to be the kicker. It seemed like he really struggled in the spring, which we got to see firsthand. It wasn't great. And the coaches they challenged him publicly, and we're like, hey, we're going to bring in another guy and see if we can get some stability there at kicker. And it seemed like Matthew Shipley rose to the occasion in fall camp, but then the season comes around and we don't see him. We have not seen him at all this year. I feel like that's going to change this weekend. Arkansas fans have been asking about the kicking situation a good bit. They're all getting a little anxious about it. They didn't like what they saw from Kyle Ramsey last week. Matthew Shipley, save us, sir. Bring some stability to the Arkansas kicking game. Make the most of your opportunity that you're likely going to get this weekend, and just kind of put this to bed. We don't want to do this all year where we're going back and forth of, oh, this guy's the kicker, and oh, now we're going to go to this guy, and well, he's shaky, so maybe we'll go back. Just bring some stability. Someone step up and take that role. I think Matthew Shipley, I thought he was the guy in the offseason. I think he should be the guy now. Go ahead and just put this to bed.
Yep. If you have two kickers, you don't have one. We could do this at every position, probably.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm with you on that 100%. That was it's crazy that the surprise of the season for me so far has been that Ramsey ran out there as the starting kicker against UAPB. That was,
it's crazy. And by the way, Shipley's the one guy who the competition doesn't matter. Whereas like if Braylon Russell runs for 75 yards on Saturday, we're going to be like, well, yeah, he did it against UAB. So can he do it against Auburn? There's no competition against Shipley. It's like, if you can kick against UAB, you can kick against Auburn, you can kick against whoever. And so I think, at home would be a nice I guess that's the difference here. But yeah, Shipley, just go out there and boot it, man.
Yeah, exactly. Two more quick ones that I have. One, I just challenge Larry Worth to make an appearance. I never have I heard of a guy who was just so impressive in camp, and just hasn't I don't want to say produced, but it just hasn't had a lot of opportunities so far. It's been interesting. And to be a guy who's so versatile, and that's the big thing about him. He's 6'4", 225. He can cover the slot. He can play safety. He can play nickel. He can play linebacker, whatever. You would think that there would be just more spots for him to rotate in there. I'm intrigued by the idea there. I just want to see it. And I think in a game where you might be a little thin, in the secondary, maybe it's a situation where he can get back there and play a little bit at safety, nickel, whatever, if they've got to shift some things around. I know TJ Metcalf will just slide in. He hasn't even had to slide in there for Hudson Clark. He's already starting over him. But in terms of the rotation, maybe there's an opportunity for more snaps there. And speaking of snaps, Addison Nichols, got to clean it up, bud.
I almost said the same thing.
That's all. And you could probably point at a few different guys on that offensive line after last week. But that exchange has got to improve. And that was the thing when Sam Pittman, the offensive line guy, is pointing out specifically like, hey, the third quarter when everything kind of went to hell, we had 3 or 4 snaps there that really set us back. Okay. Clean those up. And I think that he will.
I thought about issuing a challenge to either Nichols or Blackstock, because Blackstock really had a rough go of it at right tackle last week. And it could be as simple as he had a really rough game last week, and that's the end of the story there. But make that the case. You go out there and you play well this week. You kind of get some stability back there on the offensive line, because that's what Arkansas does not need, is for it to become obvious that they need to make a change at right tackle. Because then you think about it and you're like, all right, well, they got to make a change at right tackle. Center's a little shaky. Kudus is out. What do they do? Then all of a sudden you've got, the whack-a-mole popping up everywhere. Blackstock and Nichols need to be what they were brought in to be, which is Arkansas starting right tackle, Arkansas starting center, no controversy. It needs to be that simple. And so this is a big week for them to kind of reassert themselves as the legitimate starting 5 offensive line.
Yeah. Yep. No doubt about it. Any more challenges for you? Are you good?
I don't think I have any challenges. I'm challenged out, man. We've challenged half the roster.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot to talk about after this game, I think. For sure. But let's move on then to some bold predictions for this game. And again, it's tricky. Arkansas is, the last time I checked was last night. They were a 24.5-point favorite. My first bold prediction, because this is coming at some point, I think I don't think Arkansas is going to get 700 yards a game. I'm going to say that Arkansas has fewer than 500 total yards of offense, but they cover the spread.
I don't hate that. I mean, we talked about that Kent State game a lot this week, where it was 28-6 or whatever, but like that type of game would kind of fit the category. I mean, I think the spread is now up to 24.5 or whatever, but like a 31-3 type of game where Arkansas only has 470 on offense or whatever it is. I think that's kind of in play. And Curtis, I'm gonna kind of technically go against your bold prediction, because we might have dueling bold predictions.
Good, we need that.
I kind of teased it earlier. I think Arkansas is going to have 300 yards rushing in this game. Now, what that means for their passing, I don't think they're going to throw for 250 or something like that, because I think they're going to be running the ball a good bit. So I could see them getting 300 yards of rushing and then still only having like 165, 170 passing, because they're not going to be airing it out too much in the second half here. But I do think Arkansas is going to run through, around, over, under, whatever they got to do against this UAB defense. And frankly, they should be an adult and just beat up on the lesser opponent.
I like that. Part of the reason that I said what I said about the shortage of total yards maybe is because I do think, in my next bold prediction, is that Arkansas is going to be operating on some short fields.
Damn it.
And I think some of their points are going to come elsewhere. So I've got, and I think you did this one last time, I've got 3+ turnovers forced by the Arkansas defense, including a defensive touchdown. I think,
dude, I knew you were going to do that. I should have stolen it when I had the chance. As soon as you started talking about the short field, I knew I was in trouble. Jeez.
I love that.
You're going 3 turnovers and a defensive touchdown.
Yep.
Jeez. I was definitely going to do the defensive touchdown thing here. Man. I don't know, man. All right, well then here's I'm gonna have to wing one on the fly here. Satania's got to take one back at some point, right? Plus, he's gonna be itching to make up for the fact that he dropped that punt last week, which I'm sure fans are gonna accept that. You run one back against UAB, we can forgive you for costing the game last week. Which, by the way, I know everyone in the comments is gonna say, they're gonna say it was TJ Metcalf. Yeah. TJ Metcalf kept getting thrown out. It was not TJ Metcalf who ran into Isaiah Satania, by the way, guys. But man, I really am disappointed that you took the defensive touchdown. So maybe I'll take the special teams. Okay. I think the special teams is in play here. You know who's a guy we haven't talked about at all? Is Taylon Green.
Yeah.
Our entire preview show here. I'm going to say that Taylon Green runs for 100 yards, Curtis. And I know that sounds crazy where you're like, oh man, are they really going to be counting on Taylon Green to run the ball that much? Is that really what you want in this matchup? No, but I think he's going to rip off like a 68-yard touchdown run.
I like that.
Like gets played all over Sports Center, and it's like, holy cow, this Arkansas this Arkansas quarterback is, man. Which kind of what he did in week 1. I think he's going to have a similar highlight play that kind of takes the nation by storm and leads to him being drafted in the first round.
Yeah, I was waiting. If you weren't going to say it, I was going to. No, I like that. I like that a lot. And Taylon's, I could definitely see this being one of those games, kind of like you mentioned, where maybe you look up at the end of the day and he hasn't thrown the ball a ton, because I agree. I think Arkansas probably is in a position where they can just run all over UAB and not really worry about it. And I could see it being like a sub 200-yard passing game, but then, yeah, like he almost runs for as much as he throws for, just because he gets a couple huge ones, and UAB can't catch him, which would not surprise me at all. You took the special teams touchdown. I'm going to go a little bit of a different route. I think that the Hogs are going to block a punt in this game. I think we're going to get a punt block, and then, listen, people are going to have to get off Scott Fountain's back.
I was going to say, man, it sounds like a Scott Fountain showcase. We've got Shipley nailing kicks. We've got Satania maybe running one back, a blocked punt. I mean, hey, this is Scott Fountain showcase coming Saturday.
That's right. That's right. I think that's all I got.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have much. How bold can you really be in a game that everyone is expecting Arkansas to just trounce them? I will say this, Curtis. I think this spread should be a little bit higher.
I do too.
It opened at like 21, and I was like,
exactly.
Dude, 21. I'm like, they just lost by 26 at ULM at home against ULM, who they were favored by like 10 or 11 to beat. And so, yeah, I don't know if that's just like Vegas not wanting to. Maybe it's honestly so small that it's fishy to me. Like usually, that's usually how I bet, is where I'm like, I try to guess the spread, and if it's pretty far off, that's who I bet on. I would have really thought this spread might be in like the 30-31 range. I don't know, man. I think Arkansas absolutely rolls in this one, and mostly because I think UAB is really bad. But I also think, like, if Arkansas isn't somewhat motivated for this one, home opener, coming off a tough loss, like, you got to make a statement of some sort. If this spread doesn't hit, dude, I'm going to be a little concerned, frankly, because I mean, like, this spread not hitting would mean that this is like a 42-21 type of game.
Yeah.
Or like 31-10, which 31-10 is probably closer to about what we're both kind of forecasting here. But even then, it's like, I feel like you should be rolling offensively against this team.
I would think so too. Yeah. And that's, I mean, maybe to go back to like the musts or whatever, like the things we really want to see from here. More efficiency, I guess, in the red zone. Because what were they, 3 of 6 last week? And that was something they really struggled with last year. I don't think that's going to be a huge problem with this team, especially with Bobby P dialing it up. But you got to be more efficient than that. And even if it's not touchdowns every time, it's kind of crazy that we're in a situation here where, for the most part, you feel like you're going to need to be in the red zone to trust your field goal kicker. So, like, damn it, if you get your opportunities, make them, I guess would be my advice. Hey, just make the kicks, right? But I do think that this team is going to be better in the red zone in terms of converting and putting 6 on the board. So we need to see it. And it's been crazy, because the thing we were talking about the most after week 1 was, good Lord, they had 10 offensive drives and they scored 10 touchdowns. They may never punt. They may never need a field goal kicker. And then, you have 650 yards of offense. And to only score 31 points, I say only, but I mean, hell, when you have that much offense, you would think that you'd score in the 40s at least.
And in double overtime as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, so you go look at it and wonder, well, why did that happen? Well, it's 3 turnovers, and then you only convert on 50% of your red zone opportunities. So definitely want to see that go up. And who knows how many opportunities they might just pop off a bunch of huge, plays and not even really need to mess around in the red zone. But I think, because we're on the same page of how much they might be running the football in this game, that they're going to have their opportunities down there, cash in, dominate in the trenches, dial up something cool, and let's see some touchdowns down there for the fans.
Yeah, we spent like the entire 2022 season hyping up Arkansas's yardage while ignoring the fact that they weren't scoring. They were like top 12 nationally in yardage and then like top 50 in scoring. I really don't want to do that again, where we're sitting here talking about yards every week. Football, they don't tally up the yards and assess the winner that way. And I don't think that's going to be an issue here. But yeah, I definitely don't think there should be a discrepancy between the yardage and the points. And I mean, I don't want to see the shot quality sites coming out on Sunday and being like, Arkansas should have scored 59 in this game, but they only scored 27. Yeah, definitely do not want to see that. And yeah, let's get some red zone opportunities. And what's crazy is Arkansas was bad in the red zone last week, but they also had a couple drives that stalled right outside the red zone, because you had the go for it on 4th and 4 where they didn't convert. That was at like the 22-23. You missed a field goal from the 24. And so, yeah, like there were a couple even more. It was actually worse than the number showed.
Yeah, that's true. We'll get out of here in just a couple minutes, but I did want to do one more thing, and we can always double back and see how we did. Your prediction on the first touchdown scorer for Arkansas, who puts it in the end zone first?
I'm gonna go Andrew Armstrong. He didn't catch a touchdown last week, did he?
I don't think he did.
No, because it was just Luke Has that caught it.
That's right. Taylor only threw one. Mm-hmm.
I think they'll run, and then they'll get down to like the 7. Quick little slant to Andrew Armstrong. Get him on the board for the year. And also Andrew Armstrong leading the SEC in yards per game.
Yeah. He might be leading the SEC in yards period after this game, which would be impressive. I don't know. The dude for Ole Miss is up there, man. What's his name?
He's got what is the dude's name?
I don't know, but he's got 300
running back
yards.
What's the receiver's name?
I don't know. He's good.
He's got 300 something yards through 2 games.
Yeah.
He's gonna have to really keep pace with that cat.
No kidding. I'm gonna go Satania, and I think it's gonna be the first completion of the game, whenever that may be. I think they're gonna start kind of like you said, run it down their throat. But the first completion of the game, he's gonna catch one, but then he's gonna run it about 40 more after that for a touchdown. It's time.
A little tap pass, maybe.
Sure. Yeah. Whatever, man. I think he's gonna be the guy. And then let's do one more for the heck of it. Leading receiver, yards and receptions. What do we got?
I think I'll still stick with Andrew Armstrong.
I like it. Both.
I think both. Yeah, yards, receptions, touchdowns. I think he's gonna do it a little bit. But as we said earlier, like I don't think it's gonna be 10 for 164. I don't think Arkansas is gonna be airing it out a ton. I think you'll have like 5 receptions for 75 yards and a touchdown, and that'll be about all she wrote. That'll be all that's needed.
I'm gonna go Andrew Armstrong receptions. I'm gonna go Tyrone Broden yards. That's what I'm gonna do. Get weird with it. All right. Are we done here? We got anything else? I think we pretty much covered it, man.
We've covered as much of the Arkansas-UAB game as one can cover in a week where nobody cares about the Arkansas-UAB game. But guys, I'm sorry that this week had to be a little bit of a dull one, because the opponent's not great. You're coming off a loss. The excitement's kind of took the wind out of our sails a little bit. But the beauty of this is Arkansas wins this game 49-3. All of a sudden, we're right back on it. Big game against Auburn coming up next week. And so I think that's the way Razorback fans should be viewing this, of like, this is your get back game. We got a big game against Auburn. Like, there's no way around it. Like, that game against Auburn is massive. There's gonna be a lot of stakes in that one. Auburn's all of a sudden looking pretty beatable. So this week is all about, are we ready for Auburn? Are we ready for that? And I think this Saturday, Arkansas fans, if nothing else, just enjoy the fact that you get to watch your team win a game. There's not many times you can guarantee that, but enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And we'll be tuned in. We'll be tapped in. We'll be watching it, and we'll be looking forward to talking about it in the aftermath. So make sure you're primed up and ready to join us as soon as the game ends for our post-game show, where I'm sure there won't be any crazy comments or wild takes to be had after this one.
Cheers.
And then we got plenty more coming. We'll have our post-game report card. Remember, that comes out every Sunday morning. And then, like I said, we're going to run it back with this and hold ourselves accountable. That'll come a little bit later in the day on Saturday. So a lot coming your way. Appreciate everybody, as always, for tuning in and tapping in with us. If you're not subscribed already, make sure you get subscribed to our Inside Arkansas YouTube page, and make sure that you get subscribed to the Pot of That Nature feed wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, whatever. Make sure you do that for us. For Andrew Ellis, it's been Curtis Wilkerson with Inside Arkansas, and we will catch you guys next time. Everybody have a good one.